I'm Paula Gilbert, the editor of Connecting Africa, and we're here at MWC Africa in Rwanda, and I'm here with Max Cuvellier, who is the head of mobile for development at the GSMA.
Correct. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, so nice to see you again. So obviously this event, you guys always put out a lot of reports, but the main report this year, there was a lot about the internet usage gap in Africa. So maybe just tell me a little bit about that. What does it mean and what is the issue?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically the way, I think it's important to understand the concept. So basically when you look at the overall population, you have the people who cannot use the mobile internet because they're not yet connected. So in Africa, it's 15%, 1/5 of the population. It's about 200 million people. This coverage gap has reduced from 35% in 2017 to 15% now. So there's a lot of investment that's been done by the industry to connect more and more people. And we estimate that between now and 2030, the industry will still spend $75 billion on trying to connect more people. But while we were bridging that coverage gap, what happened is that the usage gap increased. So we've got 85% of the population today who are covered by a mobile internet network, but only 25% use the mobile internet, which means that nearly 60% of the population is covered. The investment has been made, they're just not using the mobile internet. One thing to note is that Africa is a very young population. So if you look at the adult population only, it's about a split. There's 85% of the population, you've got 43% who are using the mobile internet and 42% who are not. But there's 42 amounts for hundreds of millions of people, and we need to bridge that gap.
Yeah, so what are the barriers keeping people offline when actually they're in an area that has internet, but why are they not using it?
Yeah, so we've done a lot of research to identify them and also identify ways to address those barriers, and we categorize them as 5 key barriers. The first one is affordability, and mostly the affordability of handsets. It is the first investment you need to make to be able to go online, either a high-end feature phone or a smartphone, and for a lot of people, it's too big an investment to be done in one go. So first, handset affordability. The second one is on knowledge and skills. So obviously there's still a literacy issue, a general literacy issue, but even for people who are literate, understanding what is the mobile internet, how to use the mobile internet is probably the second biggest barrier with the handset affordability. The other 3 are safety and security, which is both about actual safety and security, but also perception of safety and security. For instance, social norms that will influence how men think women will be treated online. The fourth one is on the relevance. People either do not know what the internet could bring to their life, or maybe there is not a specific service or enough value in going online for them to actually make that investment. And the fifth one is more of a broader issue, an access issue that mobile operators cannot address directly. For instance, the lack of proof of ID, which still prevents tens of millions of people from accessing a SIM under their own name, or the issues with access to energy. If you have a smartphone, but you don't have reliable access to energy to charge your phone, that also becomes a barrier.
Yeah, and why is it actually important that people get online? What are the opportunities that they're missing out on because they're not online?
Yeah, so this is a very interesting question. I'm asked a lot here, and for us, obviously, being part of the industry and working on this on a daily basis, it's obvious. And there's so many answers to this question. The reality today is a lot of services, a lot of opportunities are moving online. Finding a job, finding new clients for your business, getting information about your health, getting additional information for the education of your children. But even if you're a farmer, getting access to climate insurance, for instance, all these things are enabled by the internet, by creating an identity online that helps you create a credit score or get access to government services, for instance. So for us, it's really transformational, both at an individual level, but also it translates at a macro level. For a country to strengthen its society and strengthen its economy, not moving everybody online creates a big issue. And at the end of the day, it's also the right thing to do. I mean, there are a lot of inequalities in our physical world today. If we're not working hard on inclusion and bridging that usage gap, what we'll just be doing is translating these inequalities online, and this is not the online world that we want.
Yeah, I love that. That's actually such a good way of putting it, yeah.
Thank you.
So what do you think are the practical solutions that we can actually implement as we move into 2024 to try and make sure that this usage gap gets smaller?
Yeah, so what we've seen in the past 5 years, a lot of different approaches being tried to tackle barriers or sub-barriers, but now what we're really seeing in the market is mobile operators looking at more like a systemic approach to the gap. It's not just about trying to fix, financing of handsets. It's about trying to reduce the price of handsets, trying to have conversation with governments to make sure that the import duties are not actually inflating the price of handsets. It's providing financing mechanisms around handsets. It's about doing the education both from the private sector through the agent, but also, like we see here in Rwanda, through local ambassadors that have to teach the population about what it is to go online, what it can bring to your life, and also have the right conversations about issues around security. It is new, it is scary. The first time I got in a car, I was so scared because I just didn't know how safe it was and how I was going to use it. It's the same thing with someone who accesses a phone and goes online for the first time. Relevance is the same thing, enabling local populations to create local content in their language, creating the services that will answer the needs of the population, whether, as I said earlier, it's climate finance for farmers or accessing jobs for youth. It's really about building that overall approach and systemic approach as opposed to a piecemeal approach that just doesn't work, doesn't cut it.
Yeah, and then tell me a bit more about your work at Mobile for Development and how you guys sort of play in the space and help with all of those things.
Yeah, so this report today is a report that we've been publishing now for 6 or 7 years. So we have a role in following how things are going, but also, as I said, we did a lot of research into those barriers. We have supported mobile operators in developing their plan to address the usage gap. We do a lot of work on gender as well, because this usage gap, this gap of usage in terms of both mobile internet and mobile money, for instance, affects women a lot more than men. So we work with the mobile industry, we share knowledge among ourselves. We sometimes do active technical assistance on the ground. We also have funded through the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office in the UK, through their funding, startups and SMEs on the ground who were building models. So our role is really to try and bring together the industry, make sure that we don't waste time by not knowing about a project that worked really well in a specific market or didn't work in another market, to share amongst ourselves. And then there's all the work that we do on the content itself, and more, I would say, addresses more the relevant side. So there's all the work we do on climate, on agriculture, on services for the urban poor, humanitarian, and so on, to just make sure that when people are online, they will be met with the right services and opportunities.
All right. Well, very, very interesting. Keep doing the good work that you're doing.
Thank you very much.
And thanks very much to Max Cuvellier, who's the head of Mobile for Development at the GSMA.